Here.
Got
Awesome.
it.
All right. I'm so excited about talking to you both today. So,
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
yeah. So I'm in Chicago, and then Megan, are you in California?
Yes.
And
Okay.
I'm in Rome, Italy.
You're in Rome. Wow, nice. Um, and so this has been a big week. The book just came out, right?
Yes.
Yes, very exciting.
Yeah. I mean, tons of work too, right? You worked on this for 14-year kind of journey, I think you've said, Megan.
Yeah, the book itself took 4 years,
Okay.
but I've had Audrey Hepburn for 14 years. And then Luca and I have been building a friendship for, I guess, 13 years now. So, yeah, it's been a long time in the making.
Very good. How did you both meet?
We met through my blog, Audrey Hepburn. Luca, do you want to tell the story or should I?
Well, okay. And so the story, I tried to make it short, but it was the end of 2010, and UNICEF Italy asked me to build an Audrey Hepburn exhibit as a fundraiser in Rome. And for all the crazy things, they wanted to do a breakfast at Tiffany theme. And I said, well, why breakfast at Tiffany theme when we have Roman holiday? Mom lived in Rome. There's a lot of nice paparazzi photos, that are around Rome. And so the exhibit, the plan for the exhibit, Audrey in Rome was born like this, all in the making and all in a terrible rush because usually you plan ahead. This was basically 6 8 months of rush, and we missed a lot of information. We had all the paparazzi archives, but they're not well organized like a Getty thing. So those for quite some time ago, and uh, we I was like searching the internet for more info, more clues, because I knew a lot of details, but a lot of you know bits and pieces to join the points together was right. And in all the information that was available, immediately Megan's blog felt like a bowl of fresh air because it was accurate and pretentious, but at the same time glamorous. It was all what I wanted to a blog about my mother to be. Because in those days I was more like, how you say, I was quite against the stereotype of breakfast at Tiffany, the classical figures that you would see on uh, on a mug, basically, And I thought there's more to it. It's more than the usual marketing gig. And the Megan and her work was, and then we through another exhibit in London for the National Portrait Gallery, we became closer because we had this friend, Terence Pepper, who was the then curator of the exhibit, who, and then little by little and exchanges, and Megan asked me to do some Q&As, and a lot of times we exchange information using, like, well, I was asking more than everything because she's a real expert on anything, rare Audrey Hepburn, she's aptly called like that.
Mhm.
And she's a lovely person, so what's not to like?
Thank you.
You're sharing a lot of private information and a lot of different things, so you have to have somebody that you trust and get to know, I'm sure. And was it hard to get a lot of the photos? I mean, some of the photos are so amazing.
Oh, oh my gosh. I mean, just even thinking back, it gives me trauma thinking about how long it took to get some of those photos. Some of them we went through Getty Images, that was easy. But there were some photos that I had seen in magazines before or newspaper articles that I was so determined to get for the book. But it took years to get. It took years just to find them. And then once you find them, you have to find out who the photographer is. And then once you find out who the photographer is, you have to find their estate, if they have an estate or their beneficiary. And it just goes on for a very long process. And there were some photos I didn't get until, just shortly before the book went to print. And so some of them took years. It was a long struggle, but I'm just so grateful that we got them because that's what really sets the book apart from other Audrey books, you know, especially books that have talked about maybe Paris or her style before. This one has photographs that haven't been published for more than 60 years.
Nice. Why'd you pick the one on the front? Why did this one
Ah,
really
good
work?
question.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's a great story behind this. So this photo is by Douglas Kirkland, and he was on the set of How to Steal a Million in 1965. And he was brought on by 20th Century Fox to take photographs of Audrey for publicity for the book. And in 2017, because I've been a collector of Audrey's for the last 15 years, I purchased transparencies and photographs and magazines about her. I happened to come across a lot on Live Auctioneers, and it had photographs of Audrey, and then it had these transparencies of Audrey by Douglas Kirkland. So I put a bid down, and thankfully I won. And so I just had those in my collection for years. And then when Luca asked me if I wanted to do this book, obviously I jumped at the chance. And then I went and I had the photographs developed, and I sent them to Luca, and I said, what do you think of these photographs? What if we contact the Kirkland estate and ask first if they're originals and if they're actual photographs by Douglas Kirkland? And then what if we use this one for the cover? And Luca loved it, you know, and he has that artist eye because he's a graphic designer. So I knew that if Luca approved, then we had a winner. So Luca reached out to the Douglas Kirkland estate, and they agreed, and they were so kind and gracious. And so we got it for the cover and for the interior of the book. And I mean, we couldn't be more delighted. It looks beautiful.
Absolutely.
But this is another photo that hasn't been published for like 60 years.
Oh, wow. What about that China blue silk dress with the, you know, that?
Oh, from the Vogue photo shoot?
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. That photo is by Bert Stern. There were actually some incredible photographs that I had found in an old newspaper article from that photo shoot that weren't published in the original Vogue article. And I don't know if they still exist, but I'm so glad that Condé Nast still has these photographs and that we were able to use them because they're just stunning, you know? I love those photographs.
Well, you know, Da Vinci is a huge part of the book. What were her thoughts on the LGBT community that we know of? And what, you know, that was a dear friend of hers, obviously. I'd just love to hear about that because, you know, I'm a gay fan.
Absolutely. I do have some thoughts on that, but Luca, do you want to talk? Because I've been talking a lot.
Well, I can start because it's a non-answer I'm gonna give you because, and I'm pretty happy about it because, you know, I found out that there was an issue with not with the LGBT community in growing up because at home it was, you know, it was not a team. It was, you know, part of the world. You know, there wasn't any. So at the beginning, and very quickly I understood. Well, I knew from my mother the way she would talk about everything that, you know, there was basically only a few things that she would condemn, which is hypocrisy and meaningful being mean, you know, being cruel, you know. So and she had a very strong stance on, you know, the with us in the family, with the kids and everything around her. So there was not really a conversation, wrong, right. It was, you know,
Just a part of your life.
part of my life. Yes. So it's I, you know, and it's very strange because, well, in Italy especially, you know, that there's been a lot of struggle because there is a very so in the society, you know. So when in growing up, I was appalled and surprised that there were, you know, still families around me, people around me, parents mostly than my generation, but their parents who thought it as something, you know, unspeakable. I think it's like, you know, so from where I was coming, you know, because those are things you either know at home or you discover when you have a wider discussion. And so I was very, 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 very surprised. I was like, kind of shock. And, it's something in Italy that still exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less and less, obviously. But
Going off of what Luca said, one thing that Audrey, I can't speak for Audrey because I never knew Audrey, but from all the research that I've done and speaking to Luca and other family members and friends, it was one thing that Audrey lived. She lived her life without prejudices, and that was a value that she wanted to instill in her sons. And she actually mentioned it in an interview that I include in the book for Cosmopolitan from 1965, where she says she wants her sons to grow up knowing other people, other countries, and other languages. And she wants them to live a life without prejudices. And so, having had Where Audrey Hepburn since 2010, I've actually gotten this question quite a lot. And I will get messages from fans who are like, hi, I'm an Audrey Hepburn fan. I'm part of the LGBTQIA plus community. Was Audrey Hepburn an ally? And so I would always give two answers because, like I said, I can't speak for her, But there is the fact that she was friends with Hubert de Givenchy for 40 years. They were best friends. And they met in 1953, and he had his partner, Philippe Vinet, for probably close to 40 years, too. I mean, they knew each other when they were both working at Schiaparelli, and then when Givenchy left Schiaparelli to start his own label in 1951, Philippe went with him, and they were together in a long-term committed relationship until Hubert passed away. So Audrey always had that relationship in her life, and she loved them dearly, and she spent a lot of time with them, and they collaborated together on exhibits and other, occasions and movies. So there was that. But then the other thing that I was very determined to write about in this book, and it was because of all those messages that I've gotten over the year, is her work with Elizabeth Taylor and AMFAR. Because Elizabeth Taylor began AMFAR in 1985 when Rock Hudson was diagnosed with AIDS. And that was a huge cause for her. And Audrey and Elizabeth Taylor had been friends since the 1950s. So when they had their first gala in Paris, called, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounced this because my French is not very good, but Gala Sida à Paris, the AIDS Gala in Paris. It was in November of 1985. And so Liz reached out to all of her friends, and one of them was Audrey Hepburn. And Audrey attended, and she went on the red carpet, and she gave interviews, and she did photos, and then she did the raffle drawing. And that wasn't just the first time that she participated in that gala. They did it the next year at the Moulin Rouge, and Audrey was there again. And then again in Switzerland in 1991, Audrey went to the AIDS Gala, and she gave a speech because Liz reached out to her and asked her to. And the thing about Audrey is that she never liked being a celebrity. That was never her goal in life. But when she could use her celebrity for a good cause, that's when she would step forward. And so we saw that with UNICEF and how she went out there and she used her celebrity and her fame to spread awareness about what was going on in impoverished countries. And then she did the same to help with AIDS awareness, which was taboo at the time. People weren't really talking about it, and people didn't want to put their face and
that's
name,
a very good point, yes.
Towards this cause and this charity. But Audrey just said, absolutely, because her whole philosophy was, if my name can help do good, then I'm happy to help. And so that was something that I was, like I told my editor, I'm going to write about this. I want to include this in the book. I didn't have enough information to make it its own chapter, but I was able to tuck it into the Oscar de la Mode chapter because I wanted people to see Audrey's involvement. And I wanted people to know who were a part of the LGBTQIA plus community that Audrey was an ally and she did support their cause. And at the very beginning, yeah.
I love that.
Oh my God, I'm winded.
No, you're very strong today, but that's a very good point.
Yeah,
And
appreciate that.
and you reminded me of that time. It was a lot of time ago, and I think she was very important to the cause just for that, because she had this super partes like kind of image. She wasn't per se, in a category. She was, well, that's one of her strength, that she was liked and loved by men, women, gay from different countries and stepping in the AIDS awareness program. And she did so much in the same way that she did with us at home, in the sense she went there, especially telling people, you know, it's a sickness that comes from love that can concern that concerns everybody. It's like, it's not, you know, the thing of the gay community, because there was a big and that's when you know, I was 15 at the when 14 15, when AIDS really was a theme of discussion, and that was a shock, you know, that some people said, you know, it's the Lord's striking that. It was like that in Europe, in countries like Italy, it was like that. It's like, you know, you really think, you know, and now I realize that her an openness, but to the theme of the fact it's a sickness and we must make the medication available at better prices and invest on research, and remembering people that it was a devastation in Africa. Because not only, you know, in things in Africa, they reached to some country to a point and where it was they thought almost 70% of the female population had it, you know, and it was enormous. And in those days, of course, in Africa, the very little you could do is promote the use of condoms, of course, to save lives. And in that time, and my mother was always been, I say, very open to everybody's beliefs, you know, if you're Christian and things like that. But there she clashed with the church, because the church was stopping the message of using condoms for protection of AIDS going through, especially in Africa, which was for her a totally nonsense. You know, okay, you're professing the fact you have to make love, to make kids and sex. Okay, that's your deal. But here people are dying, and dying by tens of thousands. So there was a big clash, a big change in her, you know, open policy, because it touches the life of people. So, you know, there was a big anger on my mother's side on all of that.
So what did you think of modern things? Like, do you watch Feud with Truman Capote right now?
Wait, no spoilers. I'm like an episode behind. I
And it's
love
not,
it.
and it's not in Italy. It's showing on where on.
Here it's on Hulu and I guess
No, we
FX.
didn't still. We still need to get it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a new thing. And then also, like, Natalie Portman, I just interviewed and said, you know, you may be the closest I get to Audrey Hepburn, you know.
Right.
What did you think of her performance and, you know, doing that?
I love Natalie Portman. I've always been a fan. You know, I've been watching her since she was young, because I'm slightly younger than her, so I've always looked up to her. And I love the way that she composes herself. And, you know, there's always a new actress that comes out and they're like, this is the next Audrey Hepburn. And they tried to model her after Audrey Hepburn. But I feel like with Natalie, she's always just been Natalie Portman. She's been herself, but there is, you know, a unique quality about her, that je ne sais quoi, that is very much like Audrey, the elegance, the poise. She's a natural talent. You know, she's gorgeous. That's undeniable. But yeah, I really like I also like that she is a feminist and that she stands up for women. She stands up for the LGBTQIA plus community. And I love the choices that she makes with her movies, with Jackie and Black Swan and everything going forward.
Yeah, and now she's gonna play Ginsburg. That's her next thing she's doing.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
like?
And when she was very, very, very young, it was, she had just did the Leon, so it was possibly 30 years back or something like that. Those scary numbers. She was our first ambassador, because we had the Children's Fund, And at the time, it was limited to, well, the project was born out of an hospital in New York that had a section, a very important section, dedicated section for abused children.
Mm.
And we basically established the fund, our fund, to fund, sorry, of the to the work of that hospital. And she was 16, 15, 17, so very young.
Mhm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because there's always been this connection between her and mom, but it's very right what she said, because that's a theme also. Unfortunately, this I won't make names, but unfortunately, this connection to Audrey Hepburn didn't bring a lot of luck to all the actresses. As soon as
Mhm.
they were able to get out of it, they
Oh,
shown. And it's true, Natalie Portman, she's able to transform herself and get over this thing. But the resemblance, the was striking.
yeah,
It's,
definitely. I like in person, you're like, oh my gosh. So what would you like readers to get out of this book and take away from it?
For me personally, we were writing this book during the pandemic. So it really became for us about escapism and kind of diving into Audrey's world of glamour and of Paris and romance and beauty. And I also really want to talk about things that were important to her, like her love of gardening, and that's who she was at her core, her connection with Anne Frank, her work with UNICEF, and also the connection with, Elizabeth Taylor and the AIDS Foundation. Those were important things for me to establish. But most of all, I would just love it if this book can transport people to, a different time, a different place, and just have it be healing, almost like a balm for what's going on in the world right now. Because even though we're out of the pandemic, supposedly, it's just every single day on the news, something comes out, and it's just one thing after the other. So I'd like this book to just be a palliative for all of that.
Mhm.
and there's a very good reason for that, that we must insist on remembering people. In those days, the beginning of the book, Paris was
Mm-hmm.
just, and Europe, the whole of Europe, were just out of the Second World War.
Yes.
So it's a reverse. So the joie de vivre was not something on a postcard. It was something that everybody needed. The creativity that was born after all these years of suffering and deprivation was, it was a burst of life, and the epicenter of all of that was Paris. The big question for me when we initially talked about the book with Meghan, he says, Meghan, well, you have to be my time traveling detective. We have to find out why my mother never had a flat in Paris.
Right.
And the answer is in the book, in the sense that my mother needed this double life. She being a mother with the pets and gardening and things on one side, but she needed Paris with Hubert, her best friends, the fashion, the events, and the thing, on the other side. And in the book, it shows, where it shows in the photographs, it shows in the stories. If she, uh, my mother always joked about herself, saying, I've never write a biography because I'm too boring. My life is too boring. I never had. Well, the book is not about that. There's so much happiness. There's so much thing. She thought she was boring, but in Paris, she played a lot. And there's an extra story to the cover of the book. She wanted that mask.
Right.
Hubert didn't want to make that mask because I'm not making mask. I'm Hubert de Givenchy. I'm design dress. I don't design mask. Mask is for carnival. And my mother said, no, but I am a thief. I want to play with my eyes. I want to play with my character. I'm not that gamine anymore. I'm getting in an age where I am a full woman, so I can play with my and the production as well. No, Audrey Hepburn is hiding her eyes, and that. But she insisted she wanted that photo to be made, and of course, like it happens a lot of time. Well, it happened at the beginning with us. The marketing won, and that photo was lost. Nobody has seen it. It was, it's like a missed opportunity. But one sample survived and found his way with Meghan, jumped another little bit of marketing nonsense with initially with our editor, and finally they and I think it's perfect because it tells this game of hide and seek that my mother played in Paris.
Yeah. Do they, where is the mask now? Do we know where it is?
Oh.
We don't know.
Let's hope it's with the Givenchy archives, if we're lucky.
Is there a large
possibly Hubert torching?
Is there a large collection of her, so many of the dresses? Is there plans for exhibitions in the future?
Well, we have, between my brother and I, quite a good collection. A lot of it is with private collectors, but we know where basically they are. Some of them are very private, and an exhibition is always on because, to make an exhibition fun, especially nowadays, you don't need all those dresses. You need more an interaction between contents like photos and videos and saying, and they're always a great success. We did a lot of exhibits in Asia some years ago. What is really like a struggle with exhibit, it's physical. Not only because it's physical, because you need a physical location, but you physically need to transport everything around, insure everything around, build something that is experience. I think that's a great way to create an Audrey Hepburn experience with as an example, with Meghan's book, would be through new technologies, with screens like this. You get all these immersive concerts, immersive exhibits. I don't know if you there's been, because the people, I don't know, are more into experience now than being studios. Then they will like the experience and buy, because for instance, a big success was this Van Gogh exhibit, which was like just immersive in the thing. And people, it's a good way, instead of saying, oh, come to the exhibit, learn everything, you read all the captions, and nobody wants to read all the captions. You go, you like, and then you buy the book, and I think that would work very well.
Yeah, like an immersive. Oh my gosh, I would love that with just like the music. You could have her singing, and then people could
imagine like in Las Vegas in the Dome, no? This new Dome.
Yeah. Well, until then, we have this great book. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing with the world, sharing your mother with the world. Her spirit is alive. Like, to see those photos, you can just, I mean, it is as current as
it hasn't aged. This is quite unique, if you think, because if you just count the years, but her spirit doesn't flex with the years. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks to a lot of things, and one of them is Hubert de Givenchy.
Absolutely.
Yes, and thank you for assembling this. People can get it at your website and Amazon, I'm sure, and everywhere else. And I'm so glad it's been such an honor talking to you both today. So
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Come
Thank
to
you
Chicago
so much.
visit us.
I would love. I never went to Chicago in my life.
Me neither. Oh, we got to go.
I need. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
field trip to Chicago. Also, if you want to drop Natalie Portman a note about the book, we'd be very grateful.
Yeah, I can send, and I'll send you. I'll send you the video of me interviewing her.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
please.
Audrey Hepburn, it's the closest I'm going to be to her. It was a cool moment. So,
Yeah.
all
Thank
right.
you
Cool.
so much.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Good night. Good night. Well, for you, a good day. Bye.
Yeah.